The Flames are hopeful that the ship is turning in the right direction. Hey everyone, welcome into Burning Questions. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Postmedia Calgary Flames writers Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin. And guys, a big win for the Flames over the Kraken on Saturday, ending that ugly 6-game slide. Wes, we'll start with you. Did you see enough that this might be the start of something good for the Flames?
Well, I think the biggest thing you saw is that at the end of the game, they were celebrating. And that's something we haven't seen in a while for the Calgary Flames. A 6-game losing skid, as head coach Ryan Huska put it, that feels heavy when you're not getting the results, when it feels like kind of nothing can go your way or nothing is going your way. That does wear on a group. And this Flames team has made a real conscious effort to keep it positive, but they needed a result. And so I think there are positives to take out of what we saw in Seattle. They got timely goals when they needed them. That hasn't been a strong suit for this team. They managed to really help out their goaltender. Dan Vladar had a great game, but they kept it pretty tidy in front of them, and they sort of banded together when they needed to. They lost Andrew Mangiapane early to an ejection and now to a 1-game suspension. They kind of weathered that adversity. So I think there are a lot of positives that this team can take forward as you obviously try to dig out of the damage you do with a 6-game skid.
Yeah, and I think that I would actually take it even further back. I would go the game previous against the Dallas Stars, where they did lose that game. But that Dallas Stars team, that's probably a cup contender. That's a very good hockey team with a lot of veterans, a lot of speed, so some legitimately elite players. And I thought that the Flames did pretty well with the exception of sort of a little stretch. And the problem for this team has been putting 60 minutes together. There have been moments where there have just been lulls or little drop-offs in play, and it's a matter of, that those happen. Momentum shifts happen in the game, but they've been trying to kind of shorten those and gain momentum back. And I thought that they did a nice job of that against Dallas, and then they really carried it forward. And I think the injection of sort of youth that we've seen is having a positive impact. But I also think that this team is adjusting to new systems. And I think that we have to remember, for all the doom and gloom about this slow start, that you don't expect those adjustments to happen on day one. They take a while, and presumably there's going to be improvements. And I think we're beginning to see these players look more comfortable in both this new offensive scheme and defensive system.
Well, one of those guys that has looked a little bit more comfortable of late, Danny, Nazem Kadri, 3 points in his last 4 games. What do you think has changed for him of late?
Well, it was actually 4 points in his last 3 games. We got to flip that around. And I just finished talking to Kadri, and you can really sense the relief when he was not producing. The media here were sort of requesting him every day, hammering him with questions, and I think that he's answered a lot of those questions over the last couple of days. But when we spoke to Ryan Huska, we just got sort of done the media availability here with the Flames, and Ryan Huska said, "Look, I wasn't that worried about the production because I saw the work ethic." He liked the way that Kadri was coming to work every day, putting his helmet on and getting to work. And I think that is what you worry about, is if you're seeing these guys get down and not coming to work and bringing the right attitude. And my sense is that the Flames have always been happy with what Kadri's approach has been. And it sort of felt inevitable that he would be rewarded with points at some points. But I do think that there's real relief.
I do think the one thing that's changed there is they finally found some chemistry for Nazem Kadri. It's been sort of it's been a tough slog trying to find someone that he would mesh with on a forward line, and we've seen a really nice fit since Connor Zary was called up from the Wranglers of the American Hockey League. It's been Connor Zary on the left wing, Nazem Kadri at center, and then Yegor Sharangovich on the right. And it's worked quite well. I would say it's been the Flames' best line in the 2 games that they've been together. And Nazem Kadri scores in the Heritage Classic. It was one of his sort of longest start of season scoring slumps of his career. He finally breaks out of that. That sort of lifts a little bit of the weight off his shoulders. And now we've seen him really click with 2 new line mates. And the Calgary Flames, if they've found something there, if this can be a forward trio that they can rely on a little bit more moving forward, that's going to be a really, big thing for them.
So speaking of the youth on this team, you mentioned Connor Zary, Wes, and of course, Martin Pospisil have come up and provided an offensive punch. First off, how important has it been to get these guys coming through? And second of all, how reliable do you think it can be moving forward with these young guys?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been pretty cool for starters. In my career, covering the Calgary Flames, I haven't seen a whole ton of kids score a goal in their NHL debut. And so to have it happen twice in the same week is pretty neat. It's a neat story to see Connor Zary live out his childhood dream, score that night. Same with Martin Pospisil 3 nights later. And it's given the Flames a real injection of energy. Connor Zary has sort of brought the fans out of their seats with a couple of moves that boosts the energy in whatever building you're in. Martin Pospisil, I thought in his first game had a real impact on the forecheck. Obviously, goes to the net and gets a goal that way. And so I do think it's had an impact on the Flames. It's always, you talk to anybody who's been through it, you have that energy in your first game and your second game. It's about consistency, moving it forward. But it does, I think, shine a light on the positive job that the Flames development staff, including the Wranglers coaching staff, are doing. These kids have proven when they get the opportunity that they're ready. And now it's going to be a case of you might need to find room for some of them on a full-time basis. Connor Zary, it's just 2 games, I get it, but Connor Zary doesn't look like a guy who's ready to go back to the AHL anytime soon. And so that forces some tough decisions, which ultimately should make your roster better.
Yeah, and I do think that it has meaning long term for the Flames. There's been such a debate about, do you rebuild? What do you do with Hanifin and Lindholm? And it's a reminder, and I wrote about this over the weekend. It's a reminder that bringing young players into the lineup doesn't necessarily mean that you get worse. You have to live with a few ups and downs, and there's a learning curve there for sure. But we're seeing the positives, and that's not something certainly that I'm not trying to pick on Daryl Sutter here, but we didn't really see that much last year. So Jacob Pelletier got a good long look, but there were a lot of other guys who fans and media alike sort of felt might be ready and could have injected something new in. And I look at that Wranglers roster, and I think that Adam Klapka is probably the first guy who comes to mind, a big guy. He's been producing at the AHL level. We've seen a lot of growth and development. Could he come in and fit in a sort of third or fourth line role with his sort of unusual size? I think you might see him get that opportunity. And let's not forget about Matthew Coronado, who started the season here, played pretty well during training camp, was one of the standouts. And yeah, it didn't ultimately work out to keep him here full time, and they sent him down for a little bit of development time. But I don't think that we've seen the last of Matthew Coronado this season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him very quickly. And, if he can make those adjustments and do what the Flames have asked him to, you're going to really see by January, when Jacob Pelletier is back, you may have 4 or 5 guys sort of under the age of 23 or 24 on this team. And that's a very different look from a year ago. And personally, I'm sensing that the fans are really excited about it. And so are the guys in the Flames locker room.
Yeah, it's a big look at the future right now in the present time for this Flames team. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below or email us at calgaryflames@postmedia.com. For Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on another Burning Questions.